Hey everybody, this is Gregory from Dapp University. So today I have a couple of guests on the channel. I've got Cameron and Max here from Cent to talk about what they're working on in the blockchain space. So welcome Cameron, welcome Matt.
Hey, thanks
Hi.
for having us on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, great to have you all. So you guys want to kind of introduce yourselves really quickly and kind of explain why you're here?
Sure. My name is Max Brody. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Cent. That's Cameron, our CTO and co-founder. I can just give you a quick overview of what Cent is for any of your listeners or watchers that are not already aware. Cent is cool. Cent's currently one of the most used dApps out there right now, and for a lot of people, it represents sort of one of the first real use cases of what a dApp can do in terms of the new type of functionality that can exist once you start programming on blockchains. Essentially what it is, it's a new type of network that allows people to earn income from anywhere by sharing their, we say, creativity and wisdom. And what that actually means on a functional level is that we have created these things that we call incentive games, or these interrelationships of creative content and knowledge and people that support or want that knowledge and creative content. And so last year we launched our beta on mainnet in, I believe, August of 2017. And that beta was our first mechanism. And what that allowed for was bountying, which essentially allows people to make any request of the network. So they can say, I need a logo, I need some research done about this coin I'm thinking about investing in, I want someone to review my paper for English class, I want people to follow me on Twitter, literally anything you want people to do. And you send a certain amount of ETH that gets attached to that request. And that ETH then gets distributed to the best answers to that request. So the user base attempts to give their answers, they sort of compete to be the best answer. And the way the best answers are identified is that the user base votes on what they think the best answers are. So the actual person that is posting the bounty doesn't actually choose the best answers. It's chosen by the user base. And every time the users choose which answer they think is better, they earn a little bit of that ETH from that bounty just for choosing. So the idea behind the network is that it incentivizes all the major actions financially, so that users that are curating are making money, users that are bountying are getting the knowledge they want, and users that are answering are getting the money from most of the money from the bounty. And what so that's high level what we are right now. We're about to launch our next major mechanism that we call seeding, that I can either explain now or we can get to that later on if we don't want to dive too deep too fast.
Sure, yeah, we can certainly talk about that. Maybe let me let me ask a couple questions first. But yeah, really great explanation, great introduction. It's an awesome project. So maybe first, before we kind of get into the deeper concepts, from a high level, Cent looks like it works really well, and it's set apart from other, blockchain-based applications, other decentralized applications, or dApps. Doesn't some things differently and better. What are the key differentiators for a product like Cent?
Well, I think a lot of that's due to Cameron. He's a really awesome blockchain engineer, and so in terms of functionality-wise, everything tends to work flawlessly. But I come from more of the design world, and I think drawing from both those worlds, I think is partially why we have what I think is a pretty cutting-edge user experience. Mostly because I think a lot of people within the crypto world are very smart, and people that make crypto products or dApps will make it with the knowledge that the people that are using this are probably pretty smart. And I think that's actually a little bit of an error, because I think one of the things you learn in the design world is, really sort of design for people that you think are maybe like 5 or 10x dumber than you think they are. Because if you can make it work for that person, then it'll definitely work for everyone else. And the people that are really smart will just see it as really minimal or clean. And I think we've sort of brought that in. We've sort of we sometimes call it making sure everything's grandma proof, or like just that that it requires a very low level of knowledge about the tech, about anything else, and we really focus on what the function of it is. And I think that's what other dApps should do if they want to launch. Talk a little bit less about how cool technical it is, and talk a little bit more about what actual functionality does it give people that's unique. But I don't know, Cameron, you wanted to add any notes on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Max hit it right on the head. You know, coming at it from a more technical perspective, in the V1 of the product, for instance, one of the things that we had on sign up was that a user had to put their email, their password, and then the third thing, unusually, an Ethereum address. And we noticed in our analytics that this was just like a huge drop-off point, right? Because if you're new to the site, if you're new to Ethereum and you sort of come here, you see that, you know, people are earning money. Okay, what's going on? Let me try. And then boom, create an account. And you're like, what is this? I need what is MetaMask? What is a Chrome extension even, right? And so, you know, I think there's been a lot of value in being like a fully decentralized platform. We're not that, but like people are working on things like that. And I think that, you know, those are great long-term sort of goals that we can orient ourselves toward as it helps us as a company. But really what we want to do is, more than anything, you know, bring even like the smallest sliver of this new technology to the masses. And if it's encumbered with all of these, you know, tooling and custom application setup that you need to have with a lot of the other dApps, we realize that that adoption is just not going to happen.
And one of the last little points I'll make here is one of the sort of metaphors I like to think through a lot is that it's not all that different from the dawn of the PC era, and sort of in the 70s, when, you know, a lot of people were making personal computers and they were designed, again, for really smart hobbyists who were sort of, you know, building these things in garages, and they knew how all the, you know, the different cards worked and how, you know, how to deal with the different byte lengths and memory length and all of that. And then companies like Apple came along and sort of was like, no one cares. They just want to be able to do things. They're simple. And let's make it very like friendly. That's like friendly to the point of what a child would use it. And we sort of take a similar energy to it, that really normal people have never cared about how stuff works. All they care about is what it does. And so I think that's partially why we've seen some success.
Yeah, very cool. Well, you want to maybe show us a little bit, you know, maybe drive for a second and kind of show us some cool features about Cent?
Yeah. Max, did you want to narrate and I'll follow along?
Sure. So this is actually our so this is our actual app. So actually, Cameron, you want to start on the main site?
Sure.
And then I can give a quick like 5-second overview on just the thought behind it. Again, the mission of the company is to provide income from anywhere, meaning that, you know, you shouldn't necessarily have to have a job in the future. You can just sort of go onto an application, pour your perspective and your ability to create from that perspective into the application, and have the application direct that value to people that can most benefit from it. And then the application ideally would give you back a financial reflection of the value you've created. And so if you scroll down a little bit, we talk a little bit about here about how like most of us work for free, in the sense of we post all the stuff to social networks that then gets, you know, sold essentially to advertisers for our attention. We talk about how employment is sort of dying and becoming automated, and how that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's a lot of subhuman labor out there that probably should be done by computers. We talked about how perspective is the essence of human value, and how that's, you know, no matter how great computers get, they'll never have your exact angle of view. And we also talk about how blockchains are making money programmable and making it decentralized and taking, you know, power away from governments and other things. And if you want to read our full vision, you can go to cent.co/vision. But now to jump into the app, just with that sort of, we're a little bit of a philosophical company, so I just kind of wanted to touch on that with our first little note. So this is Cent. So what you're looking at all right now are all bounties. Later on, I'll get to what we're about to launch, but what you're looking at here are all bounties. So for instance, the latest bounty says, what would you pay a personal board of directors? So it's a question someone has. they've added a 0.07 ETH bounty, which essentially, again, is an offering to incentivize responses. And we show the automatic conversion of the current price of ETH. And that's really one of the notes that I think is important for dApps in general, is that if you're trying to get this to be used by normal people, it's easy to sort of get lost in the crypto rabbit hole and assume that everyone knows what ETH is. But we found that once we started turning on the USD conversion, it sort of brought a lot more people in and became a lot more understandable. Even that little corner of a card expresses to a lot of people, oh, like this is like money. Okay, got it. Like basic connections are made that we've all probably made because we're deep in this world. But for new people coming in, it's really astonishing how many connections haven't yet been made. And so again, just returning to that point of making it like way simpler than you think it needs to be. So then if you scroll down, you can see that people have responded. This one was just posted, so there's only a few responses here. Maybe you want to open up another one with some more responses. Yeah, maybe, sure. So someone's asking about an ICO private sale, and then people are responding with what they think is the best answer. Users can then choose, which answer they think is best out of these little pairings. And essentially the answers with the most wins in these little games, they receive that bounty. Now, another important note here that I'll toss off to Cameron is that the way we're doing this is very much a hybrid, centralized, decentralized structure. Not everything here that's occurring is happening on chain. When we first built this, I think our very first version before it was in public, we made literally every pixel decentralized, like just to see if we could, and we could, but it was terrible in the sense of like it was extremely slow, and no one wants to use that. And there's also no point, like having your logo image hosted on IPFS does not add anything to anyone's life. And so we then sort of started emerging into this thought space of being like, well, what actually matters? Like what actually does benefit from being on a blockchain? And I think that lens is important to have when you're learning Solidity, or when you're learning to start making these things, is that it's not necessarily going to replace, all the other code you write. And it's probably most useful for just certain parts. And so deciding on those parts is a very strategic decision, but if you do it intelligently, I think it can be positive. So Cameron, you want to maybe touch on what we choose to do on chain and off chain?
Yeah. So actually we, as of a couple weeks ago, we released our Cent wallet is what we call it. And it is a full-fledged wallet that lets users put money into our system and then spend it in state channels. And then, so you'll have people posting bounties, making tips, taking all these kind of actions. And we have a contract and a backend set up so that, people can transact with our web app. And then eventually what we do is we settle it on chain on their behalf. So a user doesn't need to worry about things like gas fees or confirmation times. I'll give you an example here. Say there's a response I really like. Let me go in here and pick one at random. So this guy's going to be the lucky winner of a little bit of ETH. Let's see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip them a little bit. And then what happens, I don't know if you guys can see it based on the way I'm sharing my screen, but I have a MetaMask pop-up right now that's asking for my signature. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sign, and it says success. And so that was a transaction that happened. And, that happened via a state channel. A message was signed. And now if we look in here, there's another tip by me. If I go to my account, I'll see that, there is a sort of pending transaction. And so this allows users to have instant transactions without putting on us all of this sort of custodial risk of, managing people's money. And we found this to be a very sort of elegant solution to, mitigating risk, but at the same time also letting users transact, because, we're all around for CryptoKitties last year, and we sort of experienced the pain of that. And I think that that's just sort of the tip of the iceberg when it comes to, the state of Ethereum right now. A lot of these dApps are still sort of just getting into production, right? Augur just got into production like a month or two ago. And so as we start seeing the network get more congested, the problems like confirmation times and drop transactions and tracking all of this stuff, those are only going to get exacerbated. And so we feel like we're in a pretty good position technologically, because we have taken a lot of that interaction off chain, and that will sort of also, I guess we could segue into this, the future mechanisms that we want to introduce in the Send platform will greatly benefit from having this sort of instant off-chain secure transactions. I don't know if we want to go into that now, Max, or if you had another.
I'm happy to.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go into that. I also I want to let Greg get in if because I feel like we're.
No, sure, you guys are doing great. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So so what Cameron just showed was a variety of our functionalities right now, and just I'm guessing your users or your viewers know at a high level what state channels are, but for anyone who doesn't, it's basically just creating a back and forth for users to do a lot of micro or smaller scale transactions, and then only when someone wants to withdraw or actually they actually need to check the chain for the truth of a financial amount, that's the only point when it actually touches the chain. It doesn't do it every single time. And from our perspective, or at least my perspective, state channels as a concept is kind of emerging as a sort of group wisdom in the crypto space right now, that's sort of fundamentally a better way to do most things. And so I'm not sure, Greg, in your content, if that's something you focus on, but I definitely think it's a worthwhile skill set to start thinking about. Okay, so now to sort of change gears to what's coming up next for us. Cameron showed there how, Cameron, can you open a bounty real quick?
Yep.
He showed how, and scroll down a little bit. He showed how what you can do right now is you can tip things. And we sort of added that feature because people requested it a little bit. They sometimes felt like the answer that they had voted for didn't get as much money as it didn't get a lot of other votes, and so it didn't get as much money, and they kind of wanted to show a little extra support. But to be honest, we've never really been a big fan of tipping, and I think the reason for that is that on a human level, tipping essentially just relies on altruism. Like it relies on just like, I have money, I want to be a good person, here's some. And while that's great, I think clearly in a lot of ways the world does not run on altruism, and the world runs on a mixture of altruism and selfishness. And so with that in mind, we wanted to create a mechanism that sort of tapped into that sort of natural selfishness that's in the human psyche. And so we wanted to also put it on something that could monetize any piece of content, not just sort of a request or a question. So if you want to go back to feed, Cameron, what we're about to launch is what we call seeding. And how seeding works is, first of all, anyone's able to post anything. So we like to think of this next major update as, we use this phrase, transcending and including our current update. So so right now, what you're looking at, we would call bounties, but what they're going to be called are just posts. And posts are then going to be able to optionally have a bounty. So you can add an incentive for people to respond financially if you want, or you cannot. And if you don't, or if you do or you don't, what can happen to any post is that it can be seeded. What that means is that, say someone posts, I do, music stuff outside of technological stuff. Say I posted a song. If I posted a song and someone thought it was a good song, they could seed it with money. And what that would mean is that they would send ETH to the song, and that ETH gets distributed both to the creator of the song and to everyone who came before that person who seeded that same song. So what that means is that when you seed a piece of content, you then have the potential to get a stream of income from everyone who comes after you who seeds that same piece of content. And we think that's pretty revolutionary, because what it does is it taps into, one, you're obviously funding the creator, so that's good. And two, you're also sort of, in a sense, betting on your own taste, or you're betting on your own ability to guess of what's gonna be popular. I told this story to Cameron before, but my dad tells me the story that when he in the 60s, he was at a little coffee shop, and he saw this guy perform at the coffee shop with like 10 people around, and he told his friend, like, this guy's so great, like I feel like this guy's gonna be really big one day. And like 7 years later, he became like Bruce Springsteen, and my dad was like, I saw him, like, and like no one really believed him. But I always felt like there's something interesting there, psychological. If you can identify something before the people in a certain way have a way to put your money where your mouth is, you should benefit in the same way that people benefited from Bitcoin if they believed in it in like 2011 or whatever. So it sort of taps into that. And lastly, what it does, and I think this is important for your viewers as well, is that it aligns incentives really well, in the sense that when you give money to content, you're not just expecting this reward, you're not just doing all this other stuff, but you're then financially incentivized to tell literally everyone you know about this creator and about this content. Not like just out of altruism to help the creator because you want to be a good person, but because you want other people to see it and seed it. And so it literally gives creators money and a pretty ferocious army of fans that are going to try to spread their creatorness. And so I think thinking about when you're programming money and when you're programming behavioral structures for money, which is kind of what I think a lot of Dapp development ultimately is, think about it's a technological skill, but it's also very much a psychological and sociological skill. Like thinking about where do you want to put people in a mindset? Like what is going to make them do this? And one of the really cool things we found is that you make a little structure for people to interact with it, and they come and do it. Like they just find it and it happens. And with Send so far, we have done zero marketing, and people just keep telling people about it, and every day we're growing. And so I think there's such a small market right now for dApps, in the sense of there's so few dApps that are really existing that, and we built our first version in really not too long. Cameron, how long did it take to get how long would you say the initial beta took to code?
It was an intense week or two.
But that's something to keep in mind. I mean, again, Cameron's a really great coder, but I think seeing these huge ICO raises and these like ridiculous 300 million, like you don't need that. Like you should be wary of holding user funds, and there is risk with that, and you want to be smart about that. But also keep in mind that get something out there. Like put it out there, see what people do. Like you don't really know what'll happen until people use it, and you'll get a ton of feedback. And so as anyone out there is learning to make this stuff, I wouldn't treat it that much differently than a normal app, in the sense of the mindset of I don't really know what people are going to do until it happens, until it's actually live.
Max, did you want me to put up a diagram of the seeding that we've been sort of circulating, or you think we should pass on that?
Sure, you can bring it up real quick. I think people probably understand it at a high level. So this is the basic idea that there's content, fan one comes along, puts $1 in. Cameron, do you want to maybe go into detail about when I say send the money to the content, what exactly do I mean on a technological level?
Yeah, so what that means from how Send operates is that we have a channel going, and Send acts as a custodial hub that routes these payments around between the users. And so when you're sending money, technically you're sending money into this hub via a off-chain signature. And then that gets routed to the intended recipients, which include these other users who also have channels open, both the content creator and the earlier fans. And so then when it comes time where, let's say, fan one has made quite a bit of money, or the content creator has made quite a bit of money, they choose to withdraw that money from the contract. And in doing so, they initiate settlement on chain. And so the Send wallet is saying, okay, I want to close out these balances in these channels. And it'll withdraw that and then settle it into the user's external account, which might be their MetaMask address or their Coinbase or whatever wallet that they choose to provide. And we're sort of flexible and agnostic in that. But that's the basic gist of it, is off-chain rapid transactions with on-chain periodic settlement, which we try and defer as much as possible.
Yep. And the other thing, sorry. Go on.
That's it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. No. Only other last point I'll make in terms of Dapp usability and things of that nature is one of the frustrating aspects of making a Dapp right now is that there is fundamental bounds to the let's say the maturity of the technology that you need to draw from. because it's still very new. It's still very, in a lot of ways, some of it's kind of clunky, which means, again, if you learn to do it now, as things get easier, you'll just become like a, a ninja with it, because you'll be great by the time it gets easy. But the one of the annoyances is right now for us is MetaMask. It's the browser extension that's required to hold user funds. And it's well built. It's a, we've talked to people on their team. I'm not hating on MetaMask at all. It's just the fact that you need an extension at all, which is annoying, because that's one of the biggest differences from normal apps, is that, like, you don't need a browser extension to use pretty much any other web app, but for dApps you do. And so what we've been doing a lot of research on, and actually this week, actually just today, having meetings with other companies about, are there some sort of new class of product that is emerging that allows you to build in a lot of that MetaMask type functionality directly into the app itself. There's companies such as Portis and Bitski and other things that provide ways of making essentially in-app wallets of that nature. And what we really think that some version of that is really the next era of dApps, where they don't have to download anything. And it's just all within, because I forget exactly our analytics, but it's something like, 70 to 80% of people go through our whole sign up flow, and then they're actually using the platform. But then the second they have to deal with MetaMask, they leave. And it's extremely annoying, because, up until this point, there's been very little we could do about it. But now we're thinking we're going to be able to get around it. But just keep that in mind, that, no matter what your crypto app is that you want to launch, probably the first people that are going to use it are going to be just crypto people. And so you might want to think about that in the context of what you build. Now, obviously, crypto people are still humans, and they have other interests as well, which is good. But at this early stage, that's probably more likely going to be who you get. And so, build with that in mind, but also collaborate with other companies, because it's sort of a group effort right now.
Yeah, very cool. Well, that actually answers most of my questions that I was kind of thinking in my head when you all were introducing the product. I really enjoyed that. Thanks for that walkthrough. So is there anything else about the application that you guys wanted to share with us today?
Well, I'm curious what your experience has been like. You said you checked it out. Were you able to earn any money, or how did it go for you?
So I didn't post anything. I didn't do any tipping. Most of it just kind of poking around and seeing what you guys had. And you can also, can't you also just view content on mobile as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I was looking at it that way as well. So I'll have to actually put some more skin in the game and create some posts and issue some tips and things like that. Maybe see some content.
Well, I mean, there's an easy on-ramp for people from your perspective, I would say, content creators. So one of the things that a lot of content creators want is just, more people consuming content. And so a past experience that we've had with several different entities is, like, check out my channel or give me feedback or something like that. Posting a bounty to that effect has actually, led to signups, led to new subscribers, led to a lot of new engagement with the crypto community. Because we do have, like Max said, it's very crypto focused right now, which has its downsides, right? We want to expand and become something greater than that. But for the crypto community looking to reach out to the crypto community sort of on itself, it's actually been a pretty sort of valuable tool. As can be seen by all the bounties here. There was a time when we first launched where we astroturfed like crazy in like the first week or so. And it was not fun. But then slowly over time, people started to learn about Send. They're like, oh yeah. And like, there's people who have been here since the beginning and they still use the product. And the actual pace of bountying has picked up, and it's becoming a tool that the crypto community has embraced, which has been warming to see. That being said, we are not resting. We are constantly trying to come up with greater mechanisms, and so this is just the beginning.
Yeah, and just to clarify for anyone out there that doesn't know what astroturfing is, it just means, like, essentially, for us it meant like posting bounties internally just to sort of express the functionality of the thing. And in general, that's sort of known as a good thing to do, no matter what your app is. I read the other day that a lot of dating apps apparently like put out thousands of profiles that aren't even real. to start, just to sort of make it seem like it's real, and then eventually it takes off and they remove all them. But that's something to think about. And the last thing, I guess, to your users, which can be super relevant, is that there's a lot of people on Cent right now that are good crypto developers. And so if you are making a project, it's one of the best places to go to get, you know, thousands of people to do code reviews for you. You know, you put $5 in, you could at least get 100 people to check it out. And they'll go through enough and provide a thoughtful enough answer that, because again, they're competing to give the most thoughtful response to you. And so it's one of the only places to sort of have really, you know, people with crypto expertise really go through your project and give you feedback, both on a code level, but also on a usability level and on every other level. And so if any of your users are making apps and they want people to just use them, because, you know, one of the cool features is that when you're incentivizing someone to go give you a review of something, whether it's a music album or whether it's an app, in order to give it a review, they have to actually like listen to the album or use the app. And so you're sort of inadvertently like forcing them to really use it, which, you know, is probably the best way if you're going to get a user to get them, because they'll actually see what it is without actually, it's I think you get the idea. So I'm looking forward to hearing what your user base thinks.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, everybody, we need to get everybody on over to check out Cent. So, you know, this is at beta.cent.co. Is there anywhere else we can kind of find you guys online? Some social channels?
Sure. We have @Cent on Twitter. We also have a Telegram channel, which I believe is it just telegram.com/sentience?
Yeah, t.me.
T.me/sentience. Sentience are kind of what the user base has named themselves. I'm also on Twitter @MaxBrody, MaxBrody. Cameron is @CHEJAZI. I've never had to spell that.
You passed the test.
So yeah, you can find us all throughout there. You can also email either one of us at Max or Cameron @cent.co for any and all questions.
Yeah, very cool. Well, Max, Cameron, I've really enjoyed our chat today. I've really enjoyed this tour through the product. Great work, guys. Really, you know, excited about what you all have done and what you're kind of continuing to do. Before we kind of close it out today, is there anything else that you'd like for the people watching to know?
Just wanted to thank you so much for having us. I really think what you're doing is really awesome for the crypto community, and teaching in general is probably the most needed thing right now, and just the spreading of ability. So just want to give a shout out to you for doing what you do.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Well, again, guys, go check out Cent. I want to put some links down in the description below this video where you can find all this stuff. And you can join me thanking Max and Cameron again. And I'm going to sign us off for today. So until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks.